Greetings duelists and welcome to another video. So I'm going to do one final deck profile involving my Scareclaw Kash deck. This is the deck of choice that I chose for my last locals yesterday. It was 5 rounds of Swiss. My record was 401. Um, I'm going to briefly go over the deck profile, the changes that I made. I'm going to talk about the deck overall and how it performed on this format because I've been on this deck for pretty much 2 months. And in the next set, Cyberstorm Access, we're going to have a lot of significant changes to the current TCG format. And I kind of want to make this like an epilogue of like how the deck performed for me throughout this entire time until this new format develops. Without further ado, let's begin. The main deck is pretty much the same thing. Not really much has changed. Forgive the glare. I really don't know how to fix that at the moment. But the Scareclaw cards, pretty much the same ratios. Nothing changed here. 3 red card. The Kash. 3 planet. 3 arrival. Twin Saw. Those are the Scareclaw cards. Nothing changed there. Adventure cards. Nothing changed there. Foolish is pretty much an adventure card. Like, you're just dumping water enchantress unless you opened Arrival and Birth. Then this can become like a catalyst to just extend with those. For the Kash cards, 3 Unicorn, 3 Fenrir, Rice Heart. Something very funny that I've noticed is that a lot of Kash players are playing the exact same monster ratio that I'm playing, and I'm playing as a hybrid and as another engine. So I just found that very funny. So you can pretty much call this a Kash deck with other cards, but the main difference is they are playing multiple copy of these, and I'm only playing 1-1. So that's pretty much the main difference. And miscellaneous cards: Talent, Thrust, Rhoda, Terraforming, Duster. This is the adventure token. So yeah, main deck is pretty much the same. 50 cards. Nothing different from all my past other deck profiles. Not really much to say there. Let's pair these up together. Extra deck. Baron, Big Eye, Chandra-Era, Rice Heart, Goddess, Access, Unicorn. This card overperformed for me this weekend. Like, holy. Charmer, Earth Charmer. I'm super glad this is back. This won me 2 games as well. Spider, and the 2 right card and the 3 light heart. But yeah, Esther's pretty much the same. Side deck is different. I did change my side deck. My side deck is kind of different compared to last time. So I'm now playing Ash and Bell. The rest is pretty much the same. I cut Cosmic and Evenly to 2 copies of each, and I still play 3 imperms. So let's talk about the changes. The main reason for Ash and Bell was because 3 weeks ago at my locals, I got expulsion locked. I played through the expulsion lock, but by the time I recuperated, and tried to go for game. Time was called, and my opponent had more life points. So it's kind of sad, but it is what it is. Um, so your deck has a significantly good matchup against branded. However, if they do expulsion lock you, it's really hard for you to contest that. So these cards were mainly in here because of the expulsion lock. However, I will say these cards did perform well for me this weekend. I faced against Labyrinth, I faced against Naturia Runic, and I faced against Dragon Link, and these cards were great against all of them. Like, um, the bell saved me from a bestial that was going to be used on my Visa Starfrost when I tried to reborn it. This card, I used it against the Magnamut that got summoned, so my opponent did not have resources back. I ashed a Heretic Sphere. I ashed a Runic Fountain that was going to draw 3. That was really powerful. I built a big Welcome Labyrinth. Um, that's another thing that happened. I ashed a Theosis from Kash. I lost that game, but it's something to just bring up and mention. Um, so yeah, I don't regret playing these. These cards were great. It worked out. Um, all the other cards are pretty much the same thing. Like, if I did not change anything else, it's because I was already good and comfortable with everything else that was in here. Um, Other things to talk about. Um, so, as you guys probably noticed, I played this deck for a little over 2 months now. Um, like, I just felt that out of every single deck I could have played this format, this was the most comfortable one. I did test out a lot of decks. Like, I had access to play branded. I had access to play pure Kashtira. As you guys already saw, I have pretty much all the cash cards. I had the option to play like my Tier Elements deck again, the Lunite one. I had the option of playing like Dark World if I wanted to. I had the option for Labyrinth if I wanted to. There's a guy in my locals that has Recast on Avalon. That could have been a deck of choice that I could have played. Like, I had a lot of options. I pretty much had almost every deck in the room. I had access to Sprite if I wanted to as well. But out of all of those decks, this deck was like, it was a mainstay for me. Like, the grind game was really strong. Like, the opening plays was really strong. I felt like the ratios were pretty much correct. I played against enough boards. This deck does have glaring weaknesses. Like, I've been evenly a lot of times with the adventure token up. Like, that already happened. I did get nibbed once or twice in the past as well. I lost game 1 against my Naturia Runic opponent yesterday because he summoned Naturia Beast and I played 24 spell cards in my deck. So, like, not much I could have done there. It is what it is. But yeah, like, going back at it, I don't regret my choices. I don't regret this deck. I don't regret anything. Like, this deck overperformed for me. I've topped every locals that I played with this deck except for 2 of them, and I played like over 20 locals, like over 10 locals this entire format. So, like, that kind of shows you a good track record that I have with the deck. Like, I've lost to Expulsion Lock, but you know, that's just stuff that happens. I've lost to, like I already mentioned, I lost to Nat Beast at one point. I've only lost against Sprite once this entire format. Like, that's also crazy. Like, that deck was pretty much a top tier contender throughout the format. It won multiple YCSs this year, so that was another really contesting deck, and I just had a really good matchup against it. Like, never struggled against Sprite, and, and people say the Sprite has a better grind game than this deck. I don't get it. I really don't. Like, you have a one card that gets you into a link one, that gets you into a card that searches a guide, that freely special summons itself and grabs you an extender. Like, and that is a resource loop that you keep having for every turn. Like, I just this deck was pretty strong. Like, I don't regret it at all. Like, a lot of people like undervalue the power of Tryhard. Like, this card is a really hard card to out, a really hard card to out if you don't play the right tools for it. Like, Branded pretty much struggles against this almost always. If you don't have Sprite Smashers or Double Cross, like, it's really hard for Sprite to get rid of this too, especially if you pair it up with the Twin Saw. Like, a lot of decks just struggled against this card. The decks that did not struggle against this card, I just overwhelmed them with, like, linking away into other cards, or making a Rise Heart as well. Like, I mean, a Rise Heart is a really powerful card this format, and you have a deck that can summon it. So any deck that can summon a Rise Heart is already a deck that should be, like, you should be worried about. Like, that's, like, something to note. But yeah, like, I've done really insane things with this deck. Like, yesterday, I'm not gonna lie, yesterday is my round 4, which was my Naturia Runic opponent, the same one that Nat beast me. I had the most interactive duel ever in the entire format against that player. Shoutouts to Ricky. So game 2, he had Runic Fountain, he had Baron the Floor, he had like 4 Runic cards in his hand, or like, he had like 2 of them in his hand. He also had Ash. He had access to the Naturia stuff, and I don't remember the exact board that I had, but I do remember that I had Faithful Adventure on the board. I remember that I had 2 Arrivals in my hand. I remember that I also had Rakephobia. I had the Scareclaw. I had the Scareclaw Theosis in my hand. And I also had Rise Heart, the regular one. I had the Rise Heart. And I remember that I had Theosis at one point. So something wild that happened on that game was that I had access to the Kashtira as well. So in that duel, one thing that happened was I had Rakephobia and I had the Faithful Adventure, and I was baiting my opponent into using Runic. I needed to bait my opponent into using Runic Destruction that he had in his hand to pop the Rakephobia, which he did. Like, I activated Rakephobia, he immediately contested it with Runic Destruction. The moment he did that, I did Fateful Adventure, I added Griffin, I threw Theosis to the graveyard, I normal Rise Heart, I Rise Heart, sent Birth, I banished the Birth, I Scareclaw Kashtira to banish the Theosis. The Theosis grabbed me the Birth. I activated Birth and Birth summoned Fenrir. Um, you already know it's in here somewhere. Um, Birth grabbed Fenrir. I activated Fenrir. And then I linked them away for a Rice Heart, for Tryhard. I arrivaled. I double arrivaled, brought back two guys. I Scareclaw Tryhard into a third guy, and it got me a fourth guy. And then I swung for 4 attacks, and I had the fifth attack with the Scareclaw Kashtira, and that was game. That's just like one of the many examples of the that I had with this deck, but that was a very wild game. I had to bait the Sunflower twice. I had to bait Runic Destruction. He freezing cursed my first tryhard because I had a tryhard before the second. I summoned the second one, so he freezing cursed it at one point. He also resolved Slumber as well, so he banished 11 cards out of my deck. And out of the cards that he banished, the Fenrir was one of them. That's why I brought back the Fenrir with the Birth. So yeah, that was a very crazy duel. He also baroned. He baroned my Rite of Aramis here, which made it so I could trigger the Rice Heart on normal summon to dump the thing. Otherwise, I couldn't do that play because Right locks me into not activating normal summon monsters. So yeah, like that was the I'm not gonna lie, that was like one of the most fun duels I've had like in this entire format. Like that was a very crazy game. It kind of showed you that this deck can play through a lot of disruptions with its engine, and that's something that not many decks can do. Like, and that makes it very scary for this deck. Like, you have a lot of extenders, you have a lot of cards. This deck does have choke points, but if you start playing with this deck and you have the ball rolling, like you kind of play through like the interruptions that can have your choke points. That's why the Kashtira engine was really good for this deck, and that's why I played the Kashtira cards. Like the adventure cards were there for pretty much the same reason. They just are really good at baiting interruptions. Like, but yeah, like, now that I talked about the deck itself, we're going to talk about next format. Even though we don't have a Forbidden Unlimited list yet, we're going to have Cyberstorm Access debuting in a couple weeks. The cards are already being revealed. We already know the rarities, and we already know some strategies that people are implementing with this deck. The one engine I want to talk about is the Prisma engine for Vicious Astrode. I feel like this is going to be really strong. It's going to higher the ceiling of this deck significantly. And it's going to give it a lot more plays. It will make it so it can play through more choke points. It makes it so it can play against a lot more disruption. You're going to receive a boss monster that's really dumb. Like that, it's ABC Buster but on crack. Like it's easier to summon. It's a card that helps like contest your opponent's board. You're pretty much going to play this deck. If you were to play this deck, like you're going to, it's going to stop being a mid-range deck. Like it's just going to be like really combo heavy. It's gonna be like it's gonna be like pretty much Sprite 2.0. Um, However, there is one huge problem that we need to talk about, and that's one of the reasons and that's one of the things that is kind of making me hesitant on playing this deck, and it's the fact that Droll and Lockbird is going to be way more popular now. Um, for those who don't know, this deck is very, very, very weak to Droll and Lockbird. You do search multiple times with this deck. Um, and you're going to have to deal with a card that pretty much like freezes your entire engine and might even freeze you for the entire turn. So you would pretty much have like you pretty much have to do something to deal with this if you're going to play this deck. Um, either playing a different strategy as a whole, or playing an engine that pairs up with Visa Starfrost that does not lose Droll and Lockbird, while doing a lot of very high impact plays. Um, Yesterday on my channel, if you feel free to check it out, I did make a deck profile. It was a Visa Starfrost hybrid with the Cosmo cards. The and Something that I did not explain on that video that I will explain here is the main experiment, or the main purpose of that experiment was if I could find a deck or strategy that can play through Droll and Lockbird. And Cosmo was a very, very good choice at doing that, because most of Cosmo's plays involve summoning from the deck. It is weak to Ash Blossom, which is a sad truth. However, if I have to trade Ash Blossom for an engine that does not lose to Droll, I will take that trade. Like, I think it's a very fair trade. Another thing that you could do is play cards that kind of beat Droll on the spot. So, say from your Gamma and Driver, for example, is a good one. Crossout Designator is another one that probably should be in your deck if your deck actually loses to Droll. Call by the Grave is another one. Prohibition, calling Droll and Lockbird, that's another option. Like, sadly, if you want your strategy to be very feasible, if you want your strategy to go through, you have to play around this card, because this card is going to be everywhere. I was testing the Cosmo Visa's deck, and every single duel that I faced, somebody had Droll. So that kind of already tells you how powerful this card is going to be, how popular this card is going to be. Like, another card that I think should be in your deck if you have room for non-engine is probably Triple Tactics Talents. Like, I love this card. This card has been one of my favorite cards in this entire format, and I feel like next format this card is just going to be even stronger, just because you will see hand traps being played much more thoroughly. But yeah, this is pretty much for the deck. This is going to be my last deck profile, like my last deck report involving this deck, at least in its current form. The next time you see a deck profile from me involving like a deck report in locals is probably going to be post Cyberstorm Access. But yeah, stay tuned. More videos coming soon. I will be playing with more strategies. I will probably play more decks. I will probably do more videos involving like more niche and more like obscure deck profiles, because even though I can cover purely super heavy samurai or something like Subtiller Knights, I feel like there are other channels there are other YouTubers that are already covering that. They're already doing a very good job at showing that. So there's no real reason for me to show decks or strategies that people are just already too familiar with. Like I as much insight as I can provide, I don't think my insight can be that I provide for the game is going to be something very different from what other people are already doing. Um, but yeah, um, that's pretty much it. Thanks for tuning in. Keep practicing and keep dueling.